One of the distinctive features of Slough Creek are these granite rocky outcrops, which are quite familiar to you if you played the old game here at Little Butte, but they're actually all along the central valley of Slough Creek. Rocky outcrops and mounds and little hills, granite boulders strewn about, and they really are one of the things that makes Slough Creek so beautiful. But they've also proven to be a challenge to create in the new game to look as good as we want things to look. And like the cliffs in Amethyst Mountain, it's taken a few rounds of effort at it. The trick here, as with the cliffs in Amethyst, is that you can get really close to them. You can get right up to them, and they need to look good at that really close range, but you can also see them from a kilometer or more away, and they need to look good at that distance. And that's a tricky thing for a large object like this in a 3D game, because the normal way to do something with it that has detail like this is just have a texture that wraps around it and it gives it color and definition and shape and bumpiness and all those attributes. But if you have a large object that's 5 to 20 meters in size and you got to get close to it, like look here, that means that texture gets really blurry when you get up close. You just can't make the texture big enough. It'll use a lot of memory, and if you have a lot of these objects that uses a huge amount of memory on the computer, it just doesn't scale up. So that's been the challenge with this. So here's what I've been working on a while ago. I fussed with a couple different shaders. Here's one of them. Got it to look, looks okay up close. You back off, it's okay. I would fuss with it. I was like, oh, that's okay. And then I come back a month later, like, no, that's not okay. Just kind of got myself in a cycle of trial and error and always error. And finally, recently, I began using a new shader, and it's in the MicroSplat family by the amazing shader developer Jason Booth. And it brings the same approach that it uses with terrains to other kinds of objects in the game. And that was the thing we needed. Because like these rocks, terrains are things you can see up close, but also at quite a distance. And so the solutions that this shader offers for terrains also work great for big objects like these rocks. So here's a new rock mesh. This has got a lot more detail than the ones that I was using before, which just weren't giving the right degree of realism that we want. So this is using this new MicroSplat mesh shader, and it mixes 4 or more if you want, but 4 is plenty for our needs. Mixes 4 textures using a splat map, just like a terrain does. And here I'm going to set the colors for each of these textures, so you can see how the splat map determines what texture is visible at any given spot. So what's red here is one texture, what's blue is another texture. So you can see this kind of random pattern of these rock textures. And it just gives it this amazing level of detail. You can get right up close to it. It's still nice and sharp. Now, if you back off here, this is a much higher polygon rock than before. It's about 13,000 triangles, but still far too low resolution to show all the real details of the rock. It still is very kind of smooth and bulbous looking. And that's the other cool thing that we can do with this MicroSplat shader is overlay a couple textures to give it real form and definition when viewed at medium and longer distances. So here I'm going to add the normal map. Normal determines how light bounces off of it in terms of angles against the light. So parts that are more in shadow or angled to the light are darker than parts that are flat onto the light. And that gives a lot of definition. And then I can add the albedo, kind of the just sort of surface appearance texture. And that gives some more coloration and some coloring. So some of these planes of the rock that are vertical can get different staining or lichen or moss. And so that just, boom, it just brings it to life when you're, even up close, you can get that effect. But because you have these other textures that are real high resolution textures when you're up close, you still keep that sharpness. So it's amazing, like you can have it all with this shader. And once all these elements came together with this shader, it was like, this is what we need for the game. So I've spent quite a bit of time working on all these rocks. So let me just activate them now. There they are. So that's the new Little Butte. And I've also been working on rocks all the way going up the valley on all these rocky outcrops and hilltops. So let's check it out in the game. Coming up here from the west. Got a nice area to hang out around here. and a nice vantage point to look out over Slough Creek.